been melting away. We've been lying on the shore for a while, and our song is still you are the sea. Is it glad?
Right, my name is Dr. Sue Morrison, and today we have Stewart Ingram, who is going to be interviewed about the Sandend Beach Save the Beach campaign.
Yeah.
Stewart, for the record, could I ask you to state your full name and your age?
Stewart Ingram, 49.
Thank you very much. Could you tell me when you first came to Sandend?
Came here 2002. I've been here since. I've got a house down in the village. The beach is just absolutely brilliant. It's very calming. When I first moved here, I was going over the beach, I would say every day, guaranteed every day, and I would go down there, sit there, hours, just watching the waves, listening to the sea. I had a dog, so I used to go down there and the dog would just run about for ages. You'd meet folk. It's quite a social beach. You're always meeting people from the village or out with the village that come here because it's such a nice beach. And because they're coming down here quite a lot, you make friends. So you might meet them a couple of times, but the more you're down there, the more you do meet them. So you actually make quite a group of friends off of the beach, as well as friends that you've got that live in the village. You know, so it can be a very social gathering point, I could say. You know, we go down there, we have barbecues, you know, go down there at night, have a bonfire on the beach, barbecue, a few beers, just a general get together on the beach with friends, family, campfire, and everybody just sits there. All the dogs will be running about, the kids will be building sandcastles. If it's still warm, they'll be in and out of the water, you know, kids eating sandwiches, adults burgers or whatever, plus beers, of course. You know, so it's a very, I would say, it's a very important part of the community and the surrounding areas. You get frequent, recurrent people that rent houses in the village. So my daughter, she's made a lot of friends of holiday makers that come every year and have been coming every year for generations. So my daughter, she's made a lot of friends through them that keep coming back. Have maybe been coming back for 2 or 3 generations, coming back every year, all the holiday seasons, and they come here purely because of the beach, because it's such a lovely place to be. So it really is, you know, it's the heart of the community, the beach. You know, it's just a lovely place to be.
Could you tell me anything about the surfing?
The surfing, there's 3, I can't remember what companies they are. There's Sud Surf School, and there's another one, Riding High. I can't remember what the other one's called. Sud Surf School, he does surfing lessons all the time down at the beach for adults as well as children, to the point that he can get them up towards, I think it's not quite the Olympic Games, but I think it's possibly the Commonwealth Games. So he's getting them to a really high standard of competition. skills on surfing. One of the other surfing schools does disabled surfing. So they do everything from, I think, learning disabilities to possibly autism and stuff like that. You know, so that's another great aspect of the beach, because it's very difficult for disabled people to access activities in groups, because that sort of thing is due to cutbacks and everything else within councils and all that. They're losing a lot of their activities and everything else. So the fact that there's a surf school teaching disabled children to surf, it can be a great life skill as well, because they're learning how to respect the water. They're learning how to swim properly. So it's really quite important that, you know, children that disabled, handicapped. I don't like to say disabled and handicapped, because if you're saying people are disabled and handicapped, they're not really, because whatever part of their body they've lost, their body makes it up in another way. So to me, they're advantaged. They're more able than I am, anybody else is, you know, because their body compensates for it. But for that children, it's such a great life skill to be able to learn to swim properly and respect the water. So to me, that's quite important, you know. And as I say, Sud's surf school, he does stuff up towards Commonwealth standards. So, you know, there's a lot of skills out there on the water, you know, just between that two surf schools. And as I say, I can't remember what the other one's called for the love of me. I'd have to do a bit of research there, but I would be able to come up with it, you know.
That's all right.
Yeah.
When did you first learn about the possibility that Sandend was going to be a landfall for the offshore wind farm?
I would say possibly, I would say I knew more about it, I would say, in the last probably 5-6 months. I'd heard a bit about it before, but everything was so vague, you know, on the areas that it could be coming ashore at. It's just recently, really, that it's sort of tied down to here, Sandend sort of area, that it seems to be. The company keep denying it, but when you go through all their literature, there's always a Sandend in it. You know, there's no here or there or whatever. Sandend is always in the literature, you know, so no matter how many times they deny it, it always seems to be that's their aim, you know. But
what are your concerns if the landfall goes ahead in Sandend?
I've done quite a bit of research into it, and I mean, I don't have nothing against renewable energies and all that. I'm all for it, you know. But I don't understand why they can't do it somewhere where there's going to be a smaller impact. Now, that beach is very tidal, so the sand does shift a lot. And I've seen that sand shift 3 feet, easy, overnight. And I've asked them repeatedly, how do you protect your cables from the sand shifting? And they're like, oh well, you know, we can cover it with rocks, we can cover it with a concrete mattress type thing. I don't know what a concrete mattress is, but to me it's covering it in concrete. Now, if they cover it in concrete or rocks, because from what I believe there's going to be 2 cables coming in, and if they cover it in rocks and the sand shifts, we could feasibly be left with 2 rock piers type things running all the way out the sand into the sea. So in effect, instead of one beach, you could end up with 3 small parts. Now, that takes away a huge recreational part of the beach, because people won't be able to just go and walk their dogs. People won't be able to surf safely if the rocks are uncovered, especially the disabled children. Now, if they fell off a surfboard and the rocks are uncovered, they could bash their head, they could break an arm, and anything could happen. Nobody can say what won't happen. Yeah. If the sand erodes, we could be left with 2 sort of rock piers or concrete piers on the beach. Now, especially with the disabled surfing, if they came off a surfboard, they could have a head injury, they could break an arm if they land on the rocks. The company keeps saying, oh no, but that won't happen. And I keep saying, well, can you guarantee that that won't happen? And they will not guarantee it, you know. And you say to people, oh well, you know, people say, well, it won't really affect the beach. But you turn around to them and say, well, how would you feel sitting with your toddler on the beach having a picnic with 4 million volts underneath you on a cable? And they're like, oh no, I won't have that. You know, they just think that it's a cable, but they don't think about, you know, what's it called? The radiation and frequencies and, you know, all that comes off of cables, you know. There's a lot of, especially overhead pylons, there's been a lot of stuff come out about that. And there was never a problem with overhead pylons years ago, but now there's the risks of people living beneath overhead pylons and all that. Now, to me, there's not enough research been done with the effects and side effects of that cables coming in the beach to foresee what will happen in the future. And especially with the ships coming in to shelter in the bay during storms, if the cables are there, they're not allowed to anchor. So the shipping loses a safe haven. Children lose what could be a really safe beach to play on because that the rocks could get uncovered due to shifting sands. I mean, I had a road crash 5 years ago, so I've got a car and I can drive about, but sometimes I'm too bad, and I've got a mobility scooter. And due to that beach being so shallow and everything else, it's easily accessed for me and other people on wheelchairs. You can get right onto the sand, it's really smooth, you can go about quite easily, especially with the crutches. You know, it's a great beach, and if all this goes ahead, there's going to be so much disruption, even to the point of, you know, construction vehicles and everything in the village. It could affect the caravan site. People are not going to want to come back if there's concrete piers down the beach that get uncovered in storms. People are not going to want to come back and rent caravans, rent holiday homes. The fish sheds down the village, they'll lose business because holiday makers won't be here as often, so they'll lose sales with their fish. The shops in Portsoy, they'll lose business as well. So it doesn't just affect us in the village, it affects the whole surrounding area as well. You know, and I feel that there's not enough research being done to say that this won't happen if they do go ahead. They just, doesn't matter how many times I ask them, they're always very vague with their answers. You know, so I'm still genuinely concerned about the effects that it will have out there.
How well do you think the company has liaised with Sandend community?
To start with, there wasn't really any liaison with the Sandend community as such. There was some very small adverts in the local press saying about consultations here and there regarding the landfall, the cables, but it was very, I wouldn't like to say hush-hush. It was very much, right, okay, we'll advertise it, but we'll do the minimum that we have to do to be a legal requirement. You know, so a lot of people didn't know about it. And it was really word of mouth, you know, and that's how it spread. And I went to the one in Portsoy when I found about it, and it was just a sham. There was very little pamphlets available to people. I wrote feedback on one of the forms. There was a friend was in later on after me. When I'd asked, I didn't have a pen or anything with me. When I'd asked for something to fill up the form for feedback, I was handed a pencil. Now, when my friend was in later on, he got handed my form, but it had been rubbed out. So my concern was how many other forms had been either thrown out or rubbed out if it didn't suit what the company's view were. So I made it totally clear with the company that the consultation they had there was just an absolute waste of time. Their communication with the village had been absolute rubbish, and due to other people complaining and involvement within the community council, that the company came to the village hall here and did a sort of a question and answers with the village. And since then there's been another one here at the hall, and they are genuinely trying to get the community involved for feedback and information from the company now, but to me it's just a little too late, because I've already got my opinion that they're just basically, it's a token gesture. You know, the damage was done at Portsoy when the consultation there was just so rubbish. You know, that's my general opinion, and that'll be my opinion for a long time. Still, you know, that it's just all almost token, you know, token gestures, you know.
How much of the community would you say are against landfall in Sandend?
Oh, I would say it would certainly be in that. It would certainly be above 75% is against it. You know, everyone I've spoken to is against it. You know, the reason I'm saying 75% is probably because there's still a few people that I haven't spoken to and I haven't seen, so I don't know what their view is. So, you know, I'm just sort of saying 75%, because the people I've spoken to are against it, but I'm accounting for the people that I haven't spoken to, you know, so I can't answer for them. You know, so that would be sort of my opinion, would be sort of 75% are against it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Stuart. Is there anything you would like to add?
I can't think of anything. Just to reiterate that the beach is the heart of the community, and if all this goes ahead, it could rip the heart right out of the community. You know, it could just kill it completely, and it's such a shame. So many people will lose out, especially disabled kids that do their surfing. You know, so, but I feel really strongly that it shouldn't go ahead, especially not coming in the bay. You know, anywhere else round about, not a problem, but certainly not go and tear up the the beach that has got awards. It's got awards for, I think, cleanliness, access. I'm trying to think what other awards it's had. And it's been named the jewel in the crown of Aberdeenshire beaches. You know, it's the best beach floating about Aberdeenshire. So many people come here. So
Thank you very much, Stuart.
it's okay, thank you.